Flintlock: The Siege of Dawn creates a Souls-LITE experience, taking from the Souls-like genre as well as pulling combat from an action-adventure similar to something like God of War. Welcome everyone, StealthyShiroean here, and today I'm bringing another first look at a demo from Steam Next Fest. This time it's Flintlock, being developed by A44 Games, developers of Ashen, another Souls-like that you may have played or heard of, and published by Kepler Interactive. I've been covering a game every day during Steam Next Fest, so check out the past videos if you'd like. Without further ado, let's talk about Flintlock. With the graphics and presentation, I thought Flintlock did its job. It's pretty, and I really don't have anything bad to say about it, other than much of it felt fairly generic. The environments and towns I traveled through felt like something I've seen in any other fantasy video game, but maybe Flintlock is holding out with something more visually interesting later in the game. I felt the enemies were in the same boat, as none of them really stood out to me. I think this was because the enemies that you primarily face in the demo were all undead humanoids or actual humans. Once again, I hope to see some better designs later in the game, although I did like this guy. One area I really liked was the beginning of the game with the trench scene and running up to the fortress. That blend of 18th century historical inspiration mixed with magic and fantasy is something that isn't done that much. So seeing the cutscene in the beginning with them bombarding the walls and fighting the undead in the trenches was kinda cool. After complaining yesterday about Inotria and other Souls-like having vague and hard-to-follow stories, I find myself in a bit of an uncomfortable position with Flintlock, solely because Flintlock isn't like that, which I appreciated. I'm glad that I could follow the story. However, I felt like the writing is a bit on the nose and clumsy in parts, with things moving too fast for the player. Characters are introduced that mean something to our protagonist, Nor Vanek, but they don't mean anything to the player because there was no emotional build-up or character development for us to care about. Some of it's revealed later on, giving you that much-needed narrative layer, but I thought it was a bit lacking. Although I do like Enki though. He's the little fox god that follows you around and helps you. I like his dialogue and the mystery behind who he is, so he's a fun character. Essentially though, the main character causes problems for everyone by accidentally unleashing locked-up gods on the world of men, and now feels the need to fix these problems herself. I thought she was a bit too plucky for a character, making her unbelievable to me, but it gets the job done. Overall, I like the world building though. The idea of gods versus humans and blend of technology with magic made for an interesting setting. I especially love the Flintlock time period, and I hope we get to see more distinction with it, like trench scene, rather than solely just Nor's pistol and musket. So what exactly do I mean when I say this game is a Souls-LITE? Well, as the devs put it, it has Souls-like combat but opts for a greater range of movement to escape or reposition, along with having a variety of attack options that players will have to use throughout a single fight. So first off, there is a challenge here, as it would be with any Souls game. Actually, you could select a difficulty in the beginning, and I went for the normal experience, but that doesn't mean the fights were a walk in the park. Basically, Souls-LITE doesn't mean easy. If I were to pick one thing that was a big departure from a traditional Souls game, it would be the lack of a stamina bar anywhere. Stamina is not a factor in combat, which allows you to dodge and attack to your heart's content. You are, however, limited in the number of shots you have for various attacks, such as your pistol or Enki's curse ability. These can be replenished in combat or through passive regeneration respectively. Obviously, this sets up fights to be a dance of dodging and attacking, while you try staying out of the way of getting smacked, since you don't need to worry about getting tired. And it's fun! In combat, you can parry, block, and dodge as per typical. The pistol Nor carries can be used for straight damage, but more importantly, it's used to counter unblockable moves the enemies can do. Enki, your fox god companion, also has an ability that lets you weaken enemies to open them up for a devastating critical hit. And he has an ultimate-like ability that charges up and unleashes a large AoE storm. Apparently, you can gain access to new abilities, so imagine other options open up as players continue through the game. Although I did feel that some of the enemies' attacks felt too fast. This might have been my own inexperience playing, but it really felt like some of the attacks were too quick to register properly. As I write this, I realize that I probably could have been blocking more and getting a better feel for timing of the enemy's attacks. But as I mentioned in my Anotria video, I'm not one to parry. One thing I noticed people mentioning on Steam forum posts was the feeling that the pistol counters didn't give enough time to stagger enemies. I actually found that you shouldn't be shooting them right as the red Q indicator pops up on the enemy. Instead, I waited until they charged me and then shot, leaving them open to an attack and allowing me to actually take advantage of the split-second vulnerability. I really like this as it gave me more of a sense of the complexity and the thought behind how the devs made the combat. Getting hit in Flintlock can be incredibly annoying though, because they have a hit multiplier, similar to something like in Devil May Cry, where you can get more reputation, Flintlock's version of Souls. For each different action you do in combat, you gain more bonus reputation, but if you get hit, then you start at 0. Personally, I never cared for these kinds of systems, so I tried to ignore it the best I could, but it's there for perfectionists. On that note of bonus XP though, I also didn't like how it didn't auto-stash my overall currency pool. I had to remember to do that at the end of every fight, otherwise I would risk losing it. At first I thought this was so you could keep stacking the bonus, but no. As far as I could tell, your bonus doesn't increase if you save it for the next fight, so it's always better to stash it right after one. Despite a fun combat system, I do think that it could be easy to cheese too many of the enemies. If I'm constantly backing up and playing Ring Around the Rosie with an enemy, they can't seem to figure out how to get out of that loop. I think many of the fights take place in more open areas to mitigate this, but it was something I noticed. Finally, I want to touch on the exploration a bit. Once you get out of the opening hour or so, then the game world opens up to explore at the player's discretion. I like this a lot, and it's made even better with a great traversal system. Nora can double jump and dash in the air with the help of Enki, as well as teleport through certain points. It was really satisfying exploring around, and I liked how there were plenty of shortcuts everywhere to easily get to where you need to go. Through exploration you could find the typical things, dialogue, upgrade resources, and loot, but the means to find these things is what made it fun for me. It reminded me a bit of Assassin's Creed, as that's one of the key reasons why I like those games so much. Before I jump into my final thoughts, please consider giving this video a like if you enjoyed it, as that helps me out greatly with the YouTube algorithm gods. Overall, I put about 3.5 hours into the demo, and as with Anotria, it seems like there was a lot more for me to explore and do. I actually wasn't able to fight any major bosses, besides this night guy who kicked my butt. Instead, much of my time was spent exploring and killing random mobs. Combat here is a lot different from many Souls-like titles, but I think with more time with it, then it'd be a lot of fun as you begin mastering the dance you have to do with the various attacks. Other than what I mentioned previously, I'm unsure that I have any other suggestion points to the devs. While the story may not have won me over entirely, I doubt there can be too many changes to that before the release. I think the thing I'd take a look at again might be some of the timings for enemy attacks, and gauge whether or not they are balanced to the best they can be. For any who played the demo, then let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and if not, then let me know if it looks like something you'd be interested in, or if you have any other questions. Flintlock releases soon on July 18th, so if you're looking forward to it, you won't need to wait long. Only a few days left for Steam Next Fest, so I have a few more demos to get to before the end. Hope to see you tomorrow in the next one. I hope this video helped you in some small way, and if it did, then please consider leaving a like, comment, subscribe, or whatever it is you feel like doing. Thanks for watching, and have a nice day.